Hello everyone. My name is Mohan. I'm a postdoc at ETH Zurich. I'm working with Professor Sasha Kwans and Adrian Glauser. So I'll be talking about NICE. NICE stands for Nulling Interferometric Cryogenic Experiment. So the main aim of this experiment is to act like a test bench for life. So it recreates the space-like environments, the vacuum and the cryogenic conditions that we need, and performs the nulling interferometry at wavelength regions which we want life to operate in, which is 4 to 18 micron. So a brief introduction. So this image is taken. This image is that of a supermassive black hole that is taken from the Messier 87 object. So this was the Event Horizons team's achievement, which made great news in 2019. So they had telescopes spread all across Earth. So it formed a dish which was as big as Earth itself, the aperture. So that's the advantage of interferometry, where we can achieve high angular resolution, and this is very helpful for exoplanet imaging because we can tap into regions which are before the snow line, so which are very close to the stars. So we can tap into terrestrial planets which are before snow line and may have liquid water uh, in them, and possibly life as well. So the nulling interferometer works like this. A normal interferometer would have light collected from two telescopes, and it would combine it in one beam combining unit, and you will have constructive interference in the center. The constructive interference happens at all wavelength regions. It's wavelength independent, the central maxima. So if your star lies on the central maxima and your planet lies on the minima, that would be that would not be good for us. So what we would want is a pi phase shift. This is what Bracewell had proposed in his paper, and the pi phase shift causes a central minima, and this minima is wavelength independent, and you will have the planet on the maxima. So your starlight is suppressed, and you will be letting your planet light in. So this is the principle of nulling interferometry. So this forms the first two words in NICE, nulling interferometer, because it uses this technique. Then why cryogenic conditions? That are determined by the mission's requirement. So the mission requirement, the mission that I'm talking about is life. The mission's requirement is to have a null depth of 10 to the power minus 6. And why 10 to the power minus 6? It's because of the wavelength region that we are looking at. The 4 to 18 micron wavelength region is the mid-infrared region, and the star to planet contrast in this region is around 10 to the power 6. So the star is 10 to the power 6 times brighter than the planet. Hence, we want to suppress the starlight by 10 to the power 6 times, and hence the null depth of 10 to the power minus 6. And for now, the throughput of the instrument is assumed to be 5%. So this is nothing but out of 100 photons, we finally have 5 photons on the detector which are actually detected. This includes the quantum efficiency and the reflectivity of the mirrors and other spatial filtering that will be involved. So the main aim is to have this null depth of 10 to the power minus 6 for a duration of 15 to 35 hours to build the signal to noise. So our entire system has to be stable for 15 to 35 hours. So this is the requirements that defines NICE. So NICE has to achieve this null depth over the wavelength regions which are given here, the 4 to 18 micron. Uh, the throughput, we are right now not considering the throughput conditions, because we first want to achieve the 10 to the power minus 6 null and keep it stable for a long duration, and then try to go down, then try to reduce the signal levels and see the performance of our equipment. Now, when we have to translate this into actual optics, like actual path difference between the optical elements and the tip and tilt that the optical elements have to have, it comes down to the following. So the phase, which determines the optical path difference, is around 1 nanometer. And this 1 nanometer comes from the requirement that our lowest wavelength that we are observing is 4 micron. And the intensity mismatch between two combining beams should be less than 0.2%. And the polarization, which again is the rotation of the electric field, should be less than zero point 0.7 milliradian. That comes to around 0.03 to zero point zero 0.04 degrees. So the tip and tilt error between your mirrors should not exceed this value, the total tip and tilt between the mirrors. Now, with this in mind, I'll be describing the block diagram of NICE. So NICE, first of all, should consist of a light source which will emit between the wavelength regions that we want. Then it has the beam separator that mimics two telescopes. Then you have OPD control, tip tilt, wavefront, and intensity control. All of these are related to cleansing the beam and making them as uniform as possible. Then you have an achromatic phase shift, where you have the pi phase shift introduced, the normal Bracewell Nulling interferometer. Then you have a Mach-Zehnder interferometer, which is here it's called a modified Mach-Zehnder interferometer, where you have the actual beam combination. Then you have symmetric and asymmetric outputs, which are the asymmetric output will be the science beam. So going a little more deeper into each block diagram. Now the light source can be anything from a laser. So if it's a laser, then we'll have to have multiple monochromatic laser beams that are shot into the system to determine the capability of the system to null between the 4 to 18 micron. Or we have a supercontinuum light source or a black body. We have started off with using a laser light source. It's a quantum cascade laser that operates at 3.85 micron. Then literature has many beam separator techniques. We have chosen the beam splitter technique of beam separation. The parabolic mirror with a mask requires powered optics, meaning optics that has some diopter to it. And we do not want to introduce any surface aberrations. I mean, it's much more difficult to maintain the cleanliness of a beam with powered optics. So we are going with beam splitters. I'll be explaining about it later. Then to control OPD, tip tilt, and OPD and tip tilt, we have two controllers. One is for the slow variations, which are called drifts due to thermal fluctuation or any other slow variation. And the other one is fast. The other one corrects for fast fluctuations. And this is done using fast piezo actuators. So when I say piezo actuators, there are two types again. For the slow drifts, we use inertial piezo actuators, and for the fast drifts, we use active piezo actuators, which are directly connected to the component. And for wavefront correction, right now we are using a 12 cross 12 actuator based deformable mirror. So this number was defined randomly. I mean, there is no particular reason to have a 12 cross 12 deformable mirror. This is just used as a test. This is just used for the test phase to see what is the wavefront accuracy needed to control and achieve the 10 to the power -6 null depth throughout the pupil. So not just in one particular region, but the entire pupil, entire beam that is sent into the system should be attenuated by 10 to the power 6. Then intensity control is to the deformable mirror can clean the wavefront only to certain extent. Further cleaning will be done through spatial or modal filtering, and the achromatic phase shift is needed for achieving a null in the entire wavelength region. There are many achromatic phase shifters but we have chosen the periscope system, and I'll describe about it later. So this is a schematic of the block diagram that I had shown before. Now you can see that it is divided into three parts. One is the modified Mach Zehnder, which where the beams combine to form two outputs, the asymmetric and the symmetric output. Then you have the periscope system. So let me talk a little more about the periscope system. So the achromatic phase shifter that we are using is this periscope, which are three mirrors that reflects the beam in two 90-degree angles on all three axes. So you can see the input beam here has the same polarization and has the same phase, and the exit beam has opposite phase, but it maintains the polarization. The polarization is rotated by 90 degrees, but that is unimportant here. It creates a phase shift of 180 degrees, and this is created just by geometric means. And because mirror is truly reflective mirror is can reflect in all wavelengths, and this because of geometric means you are creating a phase shift. This can achieve a phase shift of pi infinitely over the entire wavelength region. But the major problem of this system is the alignment accuracies required are very high, so that those stringent requirements makes it difficult to implement this system in the lab conditions, where you will have vibrations due to air conditioning events and stuff like that. And now the last part is the beam divider. So this produces two identical beams. You can see, let me explain it to you over here. So you can see that we first build the beam divider as a normal Mach Zehnder interferometer. It produces two outputs, the symmetric and asymmetric output. Now, if the beam divider is perfect, you will have infinite all the intensity is transmitted to your symmetric output, and no intensity is transmitted to your asymmetric output. But we introduce a lambda by 2 phase shift, because in the asymmetric output, the number of reflections and transmissions are uniform. And this limits our ability to check if the two beams exiting the beam divider is very clean and identical to each other. The limit to which we can check that, theoretical limit to which we can check that, would be 1.7 into 10 to let us round it off, 1 into 10 to the power minus 4. That is the limit to which we can check. And once we do that, we add another beam splitter, and we have two beams that then go ahead into the APS, the achromatic phase shifter, and the beam combiner. Okay, so in order to achieve this null link both in ambient conditions and in cryogenic conditions, we have to devise an alignment plan. So not all elements are accessible inside the cryogenic environment, and we cannot have stages like linear and diptyl stages in the cryogenic environment. So we have an alignment plan which has to be repeatable, and the errors must be quantifiable using certain devices. So there is an alignment procedure that we have devised for the beam divider, which is shown over here. Each element is aligned element by element here, step after step, using alignment devices. The alignment devices that we are using is a visible laser and an autocollimator. We use a visible laser because the 4 micron wavelength, it will be really tough to align optical components using an IR card in the IR region. Hence, we use a visible laser, and the autocollimator helps us define the tip and tilt on each mirror. So this is an image of an alignment laser on the quantum cascade IR laser that we are using. And this is an image of an autocollimator, and this is a CD that goes fit to it, and we can see the crosshair using which we can measure the tip tilt of the mirrors. So what happens is, like, the accuracy that this device produces is around 1 arcsecond, and we can measure the error in the tip and tilt of mirrors to this level. And that would generate theoretically a null depth of 10 to the power minus 5, 2 into 10 to the power minus 5. So now, right now in the lab, we are developing the beam divider, and you can see the components over here and simple ray trace. So this will then be extended to have an APS, achromatic phase shifter, and the Mach-Zehnder modified Mach-Zehnder interferometer, which is a combiner. So right now the null depth that we have achieved is 10 to the power minus 3. The limitations would be 10 to the power minus 4. And the external limitations that we have right now are the lab vibrations and temperature fluctuations. And we haven't still implemented the wavefront correction, that is the deformable mirror. So once that is implemented, we expect that the beam quality to be better. And the alignment procedure has to now be extended to include the achromatic phase shifter and the Mach-Zehnder beam combiner. So that was it, and I also want to thank Adrian for providing the slides. Thank you.